Jeff, I listened to the show last night. You told an interesting story about William Jeffress. The first time you talked to him in the Giant Eagle. Tell me a little bit about the recruitment of him, and I hope you got your shopping done then.
Yeah. Obviously, we had heard about him. You know, he had a pretty big reputation in Erie, and it became national. And we had heard about how amazing his family was. And so I was really anxious on that June 15th day where we could, for the first time, we could call rising juniors. And like I mentioned last night, I tried to reach out to him, didn't get him, and he happened to call me back when I was in Giant Eagle. And I just enjoyed getting to know him. I enjoyed getting to know his family. Obviously watched him play that summer in AAU. He was playing with Team Durant. And went up to Erie a few times to see him myself. A couple guys on my staff went up. You know, we just tried to let him know how much we wanted him. We wanted him to be a part of our program. That was during a time when there was, you know, wasn't a lot good going on in our program. And we felt like he was a guy, especially with his character. I thought he, you know, would be a good player. I thought he'd be a really good piece. And I thought he, as I got to know him, I thought he had unbelievable leadership traits. And I thought he would be a guy as he got older that could possibly become a really good leader. So it's been really cool to watch him kind of grow in that role, to grow up. You know, he was 16 years old when he got here. And that was during the year of COVID. So everything was really, really screwed up that year. But it's been really cool to watch him grow and mature and grow up.
It was encouraging for you, I guess, when he said he wanted to stay after the 22 season.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I mentioned last night, I didn't know. I wanted some guys to leave. I didn't want him to leave. And, you know, how I approached all of those meetings, you know, because again, during the season, you start to hear things. It just always happens. And my first question with him and every guy is, what are you thinking? What are you going to do? You know, for him, he asked me questions first, just about how I was doing, what I was feeling, just about everything, how I was doing with everything that was going on. And then I asked him, hey, what are you thinking? And he immediately said he was staying, he wanted to be a part of it. And it was a big moment for me, for us, and for our program.
What went into Will's decision to reclassify and come to college early?
You know, I think that's a question probably he and his family can answer. I think he felt like he wanted the challenge of trying to get better. And, you know, I think maybe he felt like he couldn't get that in high school anymore, especially where he was, the level of competition and things like that. And I think he wanted the chance to get better. It just stinks that first year was the COVID year. And we didn't really get a chance to work with those, we didn't get a chance to work with those guys at all that summer. It's a lot I don't remember about that year. I don't even remember when we got back, when we could start doing stuff with them, when we could. It was in that, I mean, it was just a weird time in life for everyone. But I think that's what went into it.
Have you noticed that about Will, kind of, as long as you've known him, that he's always looking for kind of the next bigger challenge to tackle?
Yeah. I mean, he's a really smart kid. He challenges himself academically. I mean, he's basically a graduate now. He graduated in December. He wants to walk in the spring. He does challenge himself. You know, he thinks he's a deep thinker, and he's a guy that's really learning how to he's found his voice. You know, one of the things I remember talking to his dad about was he wanted Will to grow into, his dad was the one that had to set up all of his workouts, all of his stuff. In order for him to make the jump as a player, he had to grow into that. He had to be the one to do that. He had to take ownership of it. And it's been cool to watch that happen.
Jeff, since the last time we spoke with you, obviously Michael departed from the program. Any thoughts or information on his
Nope,
name?
just what we put out, the personal reasons. That's it.
What was Will like, you know, seeing him work through last year? You know, I got to talk to him at the ACC tournament, and when you guys were in Greensboro a second time. It's just about seeing him as a coach fight through.
Yeah, first and foremost, I felt really bad for him because I thought, I mean, he had really, really worked that summer, and we had a scrimmage that summer against some of the former players. It was a really, really cool thing. They were in town, and we did a thing with some donors, and you know, I had seen it in workouts, but seeing him against those guys, the older guys, like you saw, like the strength. His balance was better. He wasn't falling all over the place. And so you could see it coming on, like the light had switched. And it made that even harder when he got hurt. I felt so bad for him because, again, like I talked about, he had taken ownership of his workouts, of his body, he'd really dedicated himself. And so it was a blow. It was a blow to him personally. It was a blow to us. And then after, I think, a little bit of time of him feeling bad and feeling sorry for himself, then it became the challenge again. Okay, now let's get back. First, it was to get the information. And he did try to come back. I don't remember exactly when it was, but he came back and he tried to practice. And it was pretty obvious that that toe had not healed. And that's when we realized we got another look at it and realized he needed to have the surgery and he would be out. And he was away from us for a little bit because his rehab stuff happened around our practice time. And then there were times early where he didn't travel with us. But as he started to get himself healthier, where he didn't have to be on the crutches all the time, then he was with us all the time. He got a chance to experience that group, the closeness, the toughness, the camaraderie. And he was a big part of it. You know, the way, just how smart he is, what a great teammate he is, how encouraging he is. He was a big part of that.
Do you remember if Nike was any of an asset to him? Because that's what he went through the year before.
Yeah, he was. And that's one of the things that I talked to Nike about. Like, he's going through what you just went through, and so be there for him and help him. And so I do think Nike was a guy that tried to encourage him. And, you know, when you're going through that, I didn't have to go through that when I was in college, an injury where you're out. It happened to me a little bit later, after college. I can't imagine how difficult that would be to miss a season when it's something that you love to do, and just the mental hurdles that you have to go through. I hear about it all the time. You hear guys talk about, how difficult it is. And so I think it really helped Will to have Nike there to, be a sounding board. It helped him to have us. It helped him to have his family. They were still very present. They still came to all the games. So I think all those things were important.
At this level, is it hard to get someone to love playing defense in the world where, points rules?
It's hard on every level now. Look at the scoring in the NBA. Yeah, it is. I mean, to get it's the game. All people want to talk about is the sexy stuff, like the scoring, the handling, the dunks, the passes, and things like that. That's what gets you guys talking. That's what gets social media talking. That's what gets Sports Center or all of those things. Very seldom do you see, somebody that's praised for being gritty, for being tough, for defending, for, all of those things. And so getting guys to understand the importance of it is somewhat of a challenge. And getting guys to understand the importance of a role, that could be sometimes a big challenge.
Notre Dame plays good defense,
They
right?
played really, really good defense, elite defense. They're together, they're connected, they're very physical. Coach Shrewsbury is a really, really good coach. And so they game plan, for each game. They're very good defensively.
Now, if you guys have gone 3-1 since that tough loss here against Syracuse, what do you attribute that upward trajectory to?
Well, I think going on the road at that time was really good for us, just because of the closeness. When you're on the road, you're always together. You're not going to class. You're not, when you leave practice, everyone is going to their separate, different places. Not that I guys spend a lot of time together here, but when you're on the road, like that's all you're doing. So I think that was important. And then I think just understanding how hard we have to play, how hard we have to compete, the things that are necessary to win that you have to do. We did those the first 2 games, and then we did it the last 9.5 minutes of Miami. We had dug ourselves such a big hole that we weren't able to get out of it. I think we did it against Wake Forest. One of the things that was encouraging in the first half, we didn't make shots. I thought we played pretty good defense. I thought they made some really tough shots at times. My message to them at halftime was simply, look, I think you're playing hard, but it requires more. You have to play harder. I think we're trying to be physical, but it requires more. We have to be more physical. And we went out there and we did it. And so hopefully that's something, these habits that we're trying to create with the new group, that, hopefully that's something we're able to sustain and see that that's what's required. That's the reason why we've won.
Correct me if I'm-
You mentioned the physicality, needing to be mentally tough after that game. I think you even said you're in a really tough time right now, and you talked about some that you've had in your past as well. Do you think after 4 games you're kind of out of that in the dark time, or not quite yet?
With the way college athletics, with the state of the game now, and it's just, one of my assistants says this, and I think it's so true. Every 7 days, you could have a brand new team, because when they leave us, it's no telling what they're hearing, what they're dealing with, all different things like that. So I hope we are, but we'll see.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. I think you guys have 9 scholarship players who are healthy and available right now. How do you coach that? That's a challenge that you guys, as you talked about before, just in practice, getting 5-on-5 reps. How do you continue pushing these guys to be more physical when that's an issue?
Yeah, well, it helps. We have, I think 10?
You have 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
10, because MJ
Right.
is redshirting, but he's able to play.
Okay.
Yeah, the other 2 are hurt, so
Got
they're not. KJ is unbelievable in practice, so he's able to help us. I personally don't think it hurts us that much this time of year. If it were earlier in the year when we first started, normally when you get to this point of the season, our practices are not long. Like, they're about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. That's it. We try to get in, go over game plan, offensively and defensively, what we want to do. I'm talking about the on-the-court stuff. If we want to put something else in or tweak something that we do, but that's really it. So I don't think it's a big deal right now.
What improvements? Go ahead.
Well, you use the 3-guard lineup on Wednesday night, maybe more, I think, probably than any game this season. Do you go into games, with an idea of, like, okay, we'd like to use it at this point, or I'm going to hold off until this point? Is there a strategy in it with load management, minutes, that kind of thing?
No, we don't deal with load management here. I don't have a GM or all these doctors telling me my guys can't play like they do in the pros. I coach off a feel. That's what I do. I go into every game now, if I'm not starting ish, knowing I got to get him in there quick. That's the only thing I think of. And then for me, I've always done this, it's on feel. There have been times in the past I've seen a guy in walkthrough and shoot around, and he just looks like he's ready to go, and I may throw him in there and give him a chance. So for me, it's always off the field.
What improvements have you seen Ish and Zach make, particularly since the start of conference play? They're now halfway through ACC schedule at the high major level.
Well, I think Ish, number one, I think both of them. I think the biggest thing for both of them is understanding how hard you have to play, what's required as far as mental and physical preparation every day, the attention to detail every day when you move up levels. For Ish, it was probably one level. Atlanta 10's a really good conference. For Zach, it was probably a couple levels. And so the discipline that you have, that you have to have, the games are coming a little bit more frequent. For the most part, we've been Saturday, Tuesday. It helps us, me, when it's Saturday, Wednesday. but I just think those things, just understanding, all of those things. I knew that at some point they would hit a wall. Most players, especially young players, or if you move up a level, you hit a wall at some point. I think they're starting to crawl over that wall right now. I think Ish has gotten in better shape since he missed time with the injury. He only missed one game, but he missed a lot of practice time. The practices before the Louisville game, and then the practices afterwards. And so I think he's able to play in longer bursts now. When we first got back, that was my thing. I wanted to play him in like 2-3 minute bursts because he got tired pretty quickly. I think he's moved past that, and a lot of it is stuff he's doing off the court. I walked out of practice yesterday and was walking by the locker room, and I see him on the exercise bike in there after practice, after getting extra shots up afterwards. So all of those things help, just the work that's required and the mental and physical discipline that you have to have.
On that matter, you say you don't really look at load management and that kind of thing. We look at it and we're like, oh, Bub played 40 minutes the other night. Holy cow. And, he joked about not, making sure you didn't know he was tired or something like that. Do we overestimate it? Can these guys recover pretty quickly, 2-3 days off?
Yeah, I think so. My college coach always said that really good players don't want to come out the game. And I thought I was a pretty good player when I played. I never wanted to come out. We're smart I think I try to be smart with what we do in practice. And so I think it would hurt us if it's 40 minutes in the ACC tournament and we win and we're playing the next day. I think that's where it would hurt us. But, we played Wednesday. Yesterday's practice was really just a walkthrough. It was literally 15 minutes of walkthrough. And then guys getting extra work, extra shots, getting treatment and things like that. Today's practice was 55 minutes. Probably of the 55 minutes, maybe 25 to 30 were contact. And so we try to be smart with what we're doing in those situations to make sure we save their legs for the game.
If Pitt had played Oklahoma in the 2009 Final Four, who would have won?
I think we would have won. I'm not going to say they would have won, but I will say, in like the second week of January, it was around that time, I thought we were one of the two best teams in the country. I thought us and Carolina were the two best teams. And so I started watching. I knew we were going to be in the tournament. I think at that time we were something in one. And we may have been like third in the country. So I started watching other teams that were good. The one team that I saw that I didn't want to play was this Pitt team. And because they were good. That was the main reason. But the other reason is that I knew they wouldn't be afraid of my guy. I had a guy that most people were intimidated by. And when I watched them, and I knew DeJuan, because I actually tried to recruit him before I realized he lived right around the corner from Pitt. I called him a couple times. But just when I just saw the toughness, and I knew they wouldn't be intimidated. And so that was the team I didn't want to see. Unfortunately, neither one of us got a chance to be in that position. For us, I thought the thing that hurt our team in 2009 was Blake Griffin got a concussion in the Texas game. And we were 25-1. If we won that night, we would have been one in the country because Carolina had just gotten beat. And he got the concussion about 10 minutes in the first half, and we ended up losing by 4. And then we lost Big Monday because he couldn't pass the concussion test to Kansas. And so it dropped us. We lost 2 games in a row. I think if he doesn't get that concussion, I don't think we lose either one of those games. I'm not saying we don't lose before we get to the NCAA tournament, but I don't think we lose either one of those games. And I thought we would have been a 1 seed. I thought when we played North Carolina to go to the Final Four, their experience of being there was the thing, because they got beat the year before by Kansas pretty bad in the regional final, in the Final Four. And they had basically their whole team back, and they were on a mission. And I think the game before we beat Syracuse in the Sweet 16, I think we hit about 16 threes, and we missed our first 17 against North Carolina. And we ended up losing by 9. But they were both really, really good teams. the thing that's ironic is that when I took the job at Oklahoma, Scotty Reynolds was supposed to come play for me.
That's where I was going.
And so,
Don't say that name.
yes, I didn't for a long time. Because if we would have had him, we would have definitely, I think we would have beat Carolina then. So, anyway.
If you had to play Capel, what would have kept you up the most at night on the scouting report? Would it have been Fields, Young, or Blair?
It would have been all of them. It would have been how hard they play, how well they're coached, how good they are defensively, and really how physical they were. And I know they would have gone after my guy, and they would have had a lot of guys to do it because it was a really physical team. And that league was very physical. You know, I think was that the year he flipped to beat over?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, it was just all of those things. And look, my guy would have been juiced for it because he loved physicality and all of those things. I just thought they had a lot of bodies to throw at him. And the biggest thing is that they would not have been, like, for us, you know, especially the home games, but man, even in tournaments, like, you know, like they play your video. Our highlight intro video was unbelievable because it was him jumping over people and all kind of stuff like that. And I would look down at the bench and watch them looking at it. And you'd see them like, oh, like the faces and things like that. And right then I knew, okay, we got them. Like they're intimidated. And he'd get in the game and do something and you could see it. I knew those guys wouldn't be.
Notre Dame has had Pitt's number when they shouldn't have for many years. What's going to be different? Do you know this? Do the players?
I don't know it. No, I don't know. I think we've
saying
beaten them once since I've been here.
I'm saying
My first year, right? Yeah.
Like, you know this? Does it bother the players?
Nothing
Or
bothers
is
the
it in your
players.
head?
The players don't remember 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing. I just know from my time here, I don't know anything else, you know, prior, you know, to me getting here. Like I said, I think our first year we beat them. I think it was senior night. I know we haven't since. Look, they're good. I think they're better than their record. They're very physical. They have an elite guard in Burton. Micah's son is really, really good. He can shoot the heck out of the basketball. Again, Zona can shoot it. I mean, they're good. They take a lot of threes, and they're really good defensively. So we know we're going to be in for a fight. Our guys know that. They know that we're going to be in for a fight, and we're going to play against a team that's well coached, that's physical, that's disciplined, and that's really good defensively.
Now that you've had time to go back over the film, how did you assess how Fetty, you know, took on Efton Reed, you know, just throughout the game? You know, Will came in and eventually finished the job, but how did you see him take that?
I thought he did some good things when he played with the necessary physicality and discipline to guard him. I mean, he's a talented kid. Efton is, and it requires a level of physicality and discipline. One of the things for us, and again, you know, we were saying, like, them going to him, Efton, as much as they did, that's not what they do. So I thought that maybe took them a little bit out of their rhythm of what they were doing. And one of the biggest things, they were averaging in conference play 10 made threes. They only had 6. And so for us, you know, we didn't want to double as much because we were really trying to keep them off the three-point line. And so it was like a double-edged thing, like him scoring. I was upset by it and things, but it's like, okay, well, it's not threes. It is breaking their rhythm a little bit of what they do offensively. But I thought he did some good things against them.
How does he get to be more consistent?
Who's that? Federico?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the discipline and the physicality that's necessary. Like he's got to do that on a consistent basis. We need him. When he's at his best, then I think we go up a level. Because he has the ability defensively to help change games. You know, when he plays with that discipline, the physicality, the alertness, you know, he's a guy that can single cover. He's shown that he can single coverage guys. He's been really good in ball screen defense. You know, he's erasing mistakes. you know, with blocking shots or being over and help, he's active, you know, and all those things like that. It's just, you know, getting him to get back on a consistent basis of doing that. All right.